Again. Okay, we are live now. We are live now. I see that for sure. That's good because I've been talking to literally nobody for the last few minutes. So that is always fun. Let me do this entire intro again and we will get into the show. Welcome into the Florida Man Report, everybody. It is good to have you checking in no matter if you are in Florida or not. Everybody can appreciate the craziness that is Florida Man. So we're going to start doing this live show once every other week. We'll alternate on Mondays between the live show and the Florida Man Report newscast, which is a pre-recorded, really fun thing that we do, that I try to do as often as possible. Let's cut off my audio there, but I do want to see your comments. Drop me a comment here on the stream, and I will get to your questions and concerns. I know it's often more of your concerns when it comes to the Florida Man, but be that as it may, we will get into some great Florida Man news here right now. I guess we should probably do that since that's what we are all here for. So let's get into our first Florida Man story. Again, I want to bring you the latest and greatest from the world of Florida Man. John, big shout out to you. Thanks for the comment. Glad you liked the show, man. I hope everybody out there at least gets something from it. We don't get more intelligent from it, but hopefully we get some laughs out of it. This is our top, maybe not our top story, but it's the first story I'm going to give you here tonight because the headline itself just blows my mind. Here's a headline for you. He led police on a wild chase to the Keys, and along the way, he swallowed 20 crack rocks. It's either crack or meth with Florida Man. It really is. This is the story for you. A Delray Beach man led police on a wild chase from a Florida city to the Florida Keys on Tuesday night, from Florida City to the Florida Keys. He ingested 20 crack cocaine rocks along the way, that according to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Monroe deputies received a call from Florida City Police around 8 p.m. that they were chasing a black Jeep Liberty down the 18-mile stretch of US 1, which leads to the Keys. The Jeep was involved in hit-and-run crashes, according to the deputies out there. A sergeant came up to mile marker 109 and Torres and set up some sort of a roadblock, and the driver was not stopping, however. He laid down spike strips, the officer did. The driver, Mark Edward Welch, who was 50 years old. It just amazes me how people still can get into these car chases and things like that when they're, in their 50s, when you're supposed to be a grown adult. Welch initially refused to get out of the car. He hopped into the passenger seat and started thrashing around as though he were attempting to conceal or retrieve something from under the seat. That's what the deputy wrote in his police report. He eventually got out of the car and deputies cuffed him. He told police there was a woman in the passenger seat, but there clearly wasn't. Nobody else saw a woman. Maybe this guy saw a woman, but nobody in their right mind actually saw a woman. According to the arrest report, Welch's speech was rapid, shallow, and unintelligible. If I said that right, leave it to a Florida man to mess up some big words here. He had copious amounts of snot and drool dripping from his mouth and nose, so much so that the front of his shirt was soaking. Welch appeared to have urinated in his shorts at some point as well. The police report says, he downed 20 rocks of crack cocaine on the way. So I would have to imagine the crack was possibly responsible for some of that erratic behavior. I don't know. Maybe the guy was just like that. Maybe the crack didn't affect him at all. I have to imagine played some role in there. Okay, let's get to our next story here. Oh, you see the pool float there. That should give you some clue as to what's going on. Here's the headline for you. Florida man accused of stealing more than 70 floating pool toys for sex. Do I have to read you this story? I guess I will. Kind of don't want to. It's a little gross, but we'll get through it together, I guess. The Palm Bay Police Department has arrested a man they say stole pool floats to use as sex toys, quote, instead of raping women. I don't get it. Some people don't understand the concept that if you don't want to rape women, you just don't do it. Christopher Monin is 35. He's charged with burglary of an occupied dwelling, criminal mischief, and petty theft. According to the police report, Monin was seen acting suspiciously on Thursday around 1:25 a.m. when an officer confronted him as he was riding his bike. They say he admitted to having deflated pool floats in the bag that he was carrying. In the past 7 months, the city of Palm Bay has been plagued with burglaries, which the suspect cuts a screen or otherwise and enters a victim's back pool deck area. So this had been going on for 7 months, this report says. They finally caught up with this guy, and he admitted to going into the previous victim's backyard and stealing their pool toys. About 75 floats were found in Monen's possession. So this guy had quite a collection. I don't know why you need 75 floats if you're just using these for sex acts, as he was saying, but I don't know. Maybe it's like people with porn addictions where you just got to keep upping the ante. I don't know. That's just my guess. But definitely a strange story. But what else do you expect out of the Florida man? Hey, if you guys are getting a kick out of this, you see my next story popping up here. I'll tell you about that in a second. But if you guys enjoy the Florida Man Report, the weekly newscasts, and these semi-weekly lives, then do me a favor and just drop me a share if you can. If you don't mind, I know it's a whole lot to freaking ask. But I would love it if you shared the Florida Man Report, and trust me, your friends would love it as well. There's nothing more entertaining than the antics of Florida Man, and it's daily. It just never stops. We probably get 10 or 12 stories that we could post every single day from Florida Man, but I try to give you the best and most hilarious Florida Man stories there are out there. This one, of course, involves a naked man, because it wouldn't be a Florida Man Report without a naked Florida man. This happened in Daytona Beach. The story says that when a naked man tried to break into a Florida convenience store, police responded to the scene where the suspect allegedly yelled, made rude gestures, and tried to, quote, sling urine on them. This happened at a Circle K in Daytona. The staff there was stunned when a naked man showed up at their door Thursday night. The suspect, who has yet to be identified, or at least in this article, was shooting and trying to get inside, according to officials. Staff did lock the doors to protect themselves and the customers that were inside. The man is accused of urinating on the doors. At that point, police officers were on patrol nearby. They did respond to the scene, and when the suspect saw law enforcement, he turned his attention to them, reportedly walking aggressively toward the two officers while yelling. The suspect is also accused of making rude gestures towards the officers and refusing their commands to stop. That's what meth will do to you. Police say the man then tried to sling urine on them. So apparently he was still emptying out. He didn't get it all out of him when he was pissing on the doors. So he turned his attention and his urination to police officers. A third officer did come up behind the suspect and tackled him to the ground, but investigators say he put up a fight. The officers eventually deployed mace to gain control of the man. I mean, how would you like to be a Florida cop? Can you feel bad for these Florida cops? They must have to tackle a naked man on drugs, I don't know, once a week? At least once a week? Call up any Florida police department and ask them when the last time they had to tackle a naked man was. I bet you they probably tell you within the last week. Maybe that's just a guess, but I don't think I'm too far off. Again, welcome into everybody watching on Facebook Live. John, I don't see any Polk County stories just yet, but we will. I'll look for some Polk County stories over the next week for you. This story that I have for you right now, though, is another story that involves a tussle with deputies. Here's the headline. I'll tell you about it. Cops were called after Florida man shot wife's Alexa. I mean, I don't blame him for that part. I don't. I'm not a huge fan of Alexa. Then an absolute gun battle ensued. That was just the headline. That pretty much tells you all you might need to know, but I'll give you the full picture here. 2 Pasco County deputies were wounded early Sunday in a gun battle that started after a man shot his wife's Amazon Alexa smart speaker. A bullet hit one of the deputies' femoral arteries, threatening his life, and another grazed the deputy's hands, according to the Pasco County Sheriff's Office. In the tussle, the man was taken into custody with a wound to his head. It did start after a woman called 911 around midnight to report a domestic dispute between her parents, Terrence J. Peterson, who's 62 years old, again, people who are way too grown to be doing this garbage, had shot at her mother's Alexa. That's what the daughter told deputies. The couple had been known to fight, but usually their arguments did not escalate to calling the police. Peterson's wife came outside as soon as deputies arrived. She had been battered, and her husband refused to leave the home. Apparently, just before 2 a.m., deputies said they decided to enter the home after Peterson refused to surrender. That's when bullets began to spray from inside the house, and the shootout over the Alexa ensued. Sorry about that. I yell a little bit too much on these things, and sometimes the throat gets a bit dry. That's the beauty of doing live stuff, folks. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's just nuts. Do we even have to talk about how nuts that is? You don't expect... I can totally understand wanting to shoot the Alexa. I can. But letting that escalate into a shootout with deputies... Listen, I'll take the Alexa charge. I'll take the charge for shooting the Alexa. I don't want the charge that comes with shooting at police officers, especially when they potentially fatally wound somebody. That's a good call. Florida Man has been lively. Big shout out to Jim, Lori, John, and Robert just joining us in here. And thank you to everybody who is watching out there on Facebook Live. If you are watching, hey, drop me a share, drop me a comment, drop me a like or something so that I know that you are there. We got one more great Florida Man story here for you today. This one just kind of baffles me, as if most of these Florida Man stories don't baffle me. But here's the headline: Florida Man allegedly beats Uber driver with car antenna. This was from just a couple of days ago. A Florida man allegedly beat an Uber driver with an antenna and a cane because the driver tried to terminate the ride. Must have been a bad ride. I have to wonder what his rating is on Uber. It all happened around June 6th when Denzel Johnson allegedly got angry after the driver tried to give him the boot. That's when St. Petersburg police say that Johnson hit the driver with a water bottle. He then allegedly got out of the car, snapped off the vehicle's antenna, and hit the driver with it. Johnson then allegedly, I love how there's so many allegedlys in this story, Johnson then allegedly took a cane from an elderly bystander, just snatched it out of some old guy's hand, and used that to hit the driver. What the hell is this driver still doing sitting there at this point? Don't you leave as soon as the guy snaps off your antenna? You know, are you waiting to get the antenna back? You're not going to be able to put it back on. Get the hell out of there, man. The driver reportedly wound up with bruises and lacerations. A few days later, the driver identified Johnson to police. The 26-year-old was arrested, but has since bonded out of jail. He faces charges of criminal mischief and aggravated battery. So, listen, I've thought about signing up for Uber once or twice. I'm sure many people out there who might be watching or listening have thought about signing up for Uber. But those kind of stories right there are the reason that I never really took that seriously. Never really followed through on the process. Okay, let's get through everybody's favorite part of the show here today, because everybody's favorite part of the Florida Man Report, of course, is our quick check of the weather. So right now, let's give you that quick check of the weather. All right, and that's about all the time that we have left on today's show. I want to thank everybody again for joining me here today. I appreciate you checking in. Patrick, Richard, a few more people checking in just before we go. Don't forget, you can see this whole episode. Just go back and watch this. It will be on our Facebook page forever. And catch these live Florida Man Reports every other week. Next Monday for you, we're going to have the regular Florida Man Report, the pre-recorded show with all the fancy graphics and all that fun stuff. But we'll do the live every other week as well. So again, hey, thank you to everybody who has watched me struggle through the basic action of speaking today. I do appreciate you hanging in there with me. And I will be back with you at the very latest next Monday. We will definitely talk again. Thanks to everybody's support. Got to give a big shout out to everybody who's been supporting and liking and sharing and commenting. I think the last time we did one of these live videos, we were somewhere around 6,000 followers. We're up to 10,200, something like that. So I really, really appreciate everybody who's been checking in, watching the videos, and sharing what we do. It means a lot to me that you guys like it and get a kick out of it, and that's going to keep me going with this thing. So, again, thank you very much. I'm going to check out now for the entire Florida Man staff, which is basically just me. So, for myself, I will tell you thank you very much again for checking in, and I'll see you very, very soon. Have a great day, everybody, and stay cool out there. And try not to end up in my Florida Man news, please. Please. That's the only thing I ask of everybody watching. I'll talk to you soon.